lighting of the Christmas tree at Subcommittee.
Good morning, everyone. Going to call the meeting to order for Transportation, Infrastructure, and Innovation Subcommittee. Do we have any cards? Okay. Does anyone have any corrections, amendments, or a motion on the minutes of November 6th?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I forgot to mention, Councilwoman Pastor is on the phone, headed this direction. Brings us to consent items 2 through 5. Does anyone have any questions? Motion?
Motion, second.
You second your motion?
I mean, I'm sorry, I motion, sorry.
Need another sip of coffee, huh?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Consent items pass unanimously. Information items. 6 is the MAG and Metro meetings. Anyone have any questions, comments? No? The CTC meetings? They're moving right along.
They are.
Brings us to item 8, which I imagine Frank is going to come give us a presentation on the legislative agendas.
Madam Chair and council members, good morning. We are presenting to our third subcommittee today about our legislative agenda, and these are issues, again, related directly to this subcommittee. And as a reminder, we have, in the process, met with and talked to the city departments to build their agenda based upon their interests, issues that may affect them legislatively, potential items that they'd like to see run at the legislature. Met with the mayor and council to share the draft agenda so far and get ideas and thoughts and feedback on that. And now today we present the items that directly relate to this subcommittee. I'm Frank McCune, Director of Government Relations, and with me is Yesenia Dote, Manager of State Relations, and Clark Princell, Manager of Federal Relations, and they'll each be doing the respective state and federal agendas. To put it in context for our guiding principles each year when we work through the legislative agenda, for the state we have 4 guiding principles that we view and filter legislation through for how we react and respond to it from the city. The first is working to always preserve state shared revenues. The second is opposing unfunded mandates. Third, working to always protect local authority. And fourth, preserving and protecting our water resources. And so Yesenia now will do the direct items related to the state. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. The first item that we will be looking at today is from Streets Department related to the gas fuel tax. Since 1991, the state taxes on gas and motor fuel have not been increased or indexed for inflation. This tax helps pay for road maintenance and infrastructure since the tax monies are then deposited into HERF. Last year, there was an effort to increase this tax, but unfortunately, those efforts were unsuccessful. And it is my understanding that legislation will be introduced next legislative session to address this. Staff recommends supporting efforts that lead to increased statewide funding for transportation infrastructure. On items related to aviation, the first is related to the Luke Air Force Base, which is an economic driver for the state and for the city. Currently, the city partners with West Valley Cities and Maricopa County to protect and enhance the operations of Luke Air Force Base. Staff recommends opposing any legislation that would negatively impact the mission of the base. As it relates to rental car operations, a new private rental car platform has emerged, and in many cases, they operate at Sky Harbor without following any of the local regulations. These businesses are competing directly with rental car companies at the airport, but they do not pay any of the taxes and fees that these rental car companies do. You may recall that last year there was competing legislation to address this issue, and there will be a lot of efforts to get this addressed at the state level this upcoming session. There will be competing bills again, but stakeholders are starting to work together and gather information so that these efforts can be successful to are viewing this upcoming session. Staff recommends supporting these efforts and the efforts that apply one set of regulatory tax requirements and fees on all vehicle rentals in the state, and that the airport has the autonomy to set the regulations as they see fit. And lastly, as it relates to airport curb and ground transportation regulations, staff recommends that we monitor and oppose any legislation that limits the ability of the airport to regulate and set its own fees for ground transportation businesses or any commercial operations at Sky Harbor. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions related to the state legislative agenda.
Councilwoman?
Yes, I have a question going back to the gas tax or fuel tax. Has there been any discussion about alternative vehicles? For example, I drive a hybrid, so I got a lot of miles on my car, but I'm probably not paying my fair share. Has there been discussion at the legislature about alternative vehicles?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Stark, yes. So the bill that was discussed last session had to do with motor fuel tax, but it was also looking at electric and alternative fuel vehicles. And it was an all-inclusive package in one bill, and it made it out of committee, but it didn't make it to the floor of the House. But I know that these conversations are starting and stakeholder meetings are occurring, and that this effort will come back next session.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Thank you.
For the federal agenda, Clark will present, there are two excuse me. For the federal agenda, there are two guiding principles that we operate from: promoting fiscal sustainability and protecting local authority as well. And Clark Princell will now run through the federal agenda.
Madam Chair and subcommittee members, on behalf of the Aviation Department, we will continue to track any updates that occur to flight path changes at Sky Harbor as it affects the Aviation Department and the neighborhood surrounding it, and then continue to advocate for increased neighborhood participation as any of those sort of discussions occur. We will continue to track a new issue, which is a PFAS issue. This is a certain chemical that's required to be used in airport firefighting foam. And any changes that would occur into the ability to use this chemical, we just want to track for the Aviation Department as they're required to currently use this chemical in the firefighting foam that they have to have on site. And then, as within the state agenda, continuing to advocate for resources to ensure that Luke Air Force Base has the resources it needs to keep the missions it currently has, and then be able to continue to get missions into the future as it continues to grow. Additionally, for the Aviation Department, we'll continue to track any sort of airport security requirements that are placed on the Aviation Department, as this can create some sort of unfunded mandate for the Aviation Department, as well as tracking TSA staffing levels to ensure that there aren't extended wait times that occur at the aviation or at Sky Harbor. On behalf of the Public Transit Department, we'll continue to advocate for high-capacity transit funding and those grant opportunities that we get. An example of that is the light rail projects that we continue to build. Continuing to look for a long-term solution to the Highway Trust Fund. At the federal level, the Highway Trust Fund funds both street and transit. The federal government hasn't raised the gas tax since 1993, so we're continuing to advocate for, again, a long-term solution to ensure that funding continues to occur. And then the alternative fuel tax credit. This is an important tax credit that the Transit Department relies on. It's a little over $3 million a year. It needs to be extended each year, so we advocate for that so that the Transit Department can receive that refund. On the street side, again, continuing to look for the federal funding model and ensure that they have a long-term solution to the funding for the streets. Advocating for flood mitigation and stormwater infrastructure, helping with those grants and ensuring that we have federal resources rolling in for those projects. Also, the congestion mitigation air quality or CMAQ funds, ensuring that that funding continues to occur and that the region's able to use those funds in ways that best help improve the air quality in the region, as well as freight transportation. So there are certain federal funds that are related directly to freight transportation and trying to get it to move as efficiently as possible. So with I-10 and I-17 running through the city, making sure that those funds continue to come into the region and they're spent in the best way possible through our partnerships with MAG. And then on behalf of the Water Department, continuing to advocate for funding for system conservation and those federal grants that help system conservation within the city and throughout the region. The intentionally created surplus and allowing those contractors that get money out of, or get water out of Lake Mead to be able to store excess water if they have it there, so we can starve off drought as long as possible. And then also federal funding for forest restoration that occurs in northern Arizona, because as we know, if we can improve the watershed up there, that water ends up coming down to Phoenix at some point.
Do you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a question regarding the airport curb and ground transportation regulations. I'm just, because of everything that has happened in the memo we received regarding Uber and Lyft, and the letter that stating that we're not in compliance with the law from the Goldwater Institute. Can you guys talk about that? Or have any knowledge?
I mean, so that was a statewide initiative that legal is doing an interpretation of that for us. So
Okay.
the general overview is that past a certain date in January 2018, tax fees or taxes on services shall not be increased. Roughly, legal will do a more direct interpretation of it, but it failed to define service well. And so that's the big piece of the matter, and it was a statewide concern. It was passed by the citizens, so it wasn't House or Senate legislation. It was a ballot initiative, and that's literally as we speak, legal is drafting up interpretations of it.
Okay, I just was curious, because I didn't think we were, I thought we were in compliance with the law. I still think we're in compliance of the law, depending on the interpretation. I feel like we'll probably have to go to court on the issue and have services defined for us. So I'm just asking as we're ready, and we will be voting on December 18th. So I just wanted to hear from staff what the process is.
See, I don't think it's tax.
Right.
I think it's
Right.
what everybody else pays at the airport, and they're just going to be paying their fair share, and that's not a tax. So,
Well, I agree with you on that.
all right, then we're
It's a
right.
fee.
I have a question. Gateway. So it's probably federal. They're still after money for the tower. And will we continue to support them? I know it's not our primary, but we are the second largest owner of Gateway, and I think it's very important we don't forget that.
Yeah, we have in the past, and we would, Madam Chair, subcommittee members, we have in the past supported their efforts to try to get funding for improvements to that control tower, and we'll continue to do so. They have an old carve-out because of it being a old military airport, that they're not, certain funds aren't eligible to be used for that, to improve that control tower. But we've supported their efforts to get those changes included in FAA reauthorization bills in the past, and we continue to do so.
Because the feds kind of go, and yes, and then no.
Yeah.
Not now, okay, maybe tomorrow. So I just think it behooves us to continue to support that. And then I have a second question, and I don't, it could be federal or it could be state, either one. City bridges, there are any type of funding available, grants, whatever, that we can go redo some of our bridges?
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, so last session, from a state perspective, there was some money that was allocated for special infrastructure projects in the budget. One of them being the expansion of I-17 and the study for I-10, and there was some bridge projects included in that for some smaller municipalities. So there is the possibility that we can advocate to get some special projects for projects that we have identified, depending on what the budget process looks like, and once we get a better idea if there is a surplus, what that surplus is, and how much money will be allocated for infrastructure projects. And these would be one-time funds, and so that is something that we can definitely work with our various departments to try to identify and advocate for this upcoming legislative session from the state perspective.
I had a question on flood mitigation. So from a federal perspective, do we compete for dollars with the flood control district, or do we complement each other? I know we do sometimes get grants from flood control for localized flood control problems, but I want to make sure we're partnering and we're getting our fair share. And maybe it's just because it rained last week, it's on my mind. There's a lot of areas where they're isolated, but they cause a problem for our neighborhood.
Chairwoman and Councilwoman Stark, Ray Dovalina, who oversees that program, does work very closely with the flood control district and is always corresponding with them. Some of those grants we do receive through the flood control district, but we have also received some direct grants from FEMA as well. And if not a direct support letter in that package from them to FEMA, Ray always is corresponding with them and making sure that we're working together. We're never at odds competing with dollars with them.
That's good. I think sometimes people forget in the desert what flooding can do because they just don't think we have water, but when it comes, it can be very dangerous. And we have a lot of washes that run through neighborhoods, so thank you.
I do want to say we did improve an area in the South Phoenix area on Dobbins, 35th Avenue, and I received pictures showing how the retention basin worked and didn't flood the house, and the house has been flooded I think 3 times in that area. So
That's good.
I do want to say we have great news on that on that front.
Vice Mayor, did you have any questions?
No, I just also wanted to comment out in Villa de Paz, like we always have a lot of flooding, and there's a lot of work that has been done like in the last few months. So this week I got a couple of pictures and they were like, Vice Mayor, look, the flooding is down, it's over, like it's not there anymore. So I also want to thank everyone for all the help and the support on that. I know that people out in Villa de Paz are incredibly grateful for that.
Well, I wish I could say that, but
Me
we
too.
had to close New River Road. It was flooded. Anyway, another story.
And
Do
7
I
We'll
have
be
a-
working on that in
Yeah.
the future.
I'll bet we will. Do I have a motion to approve staff recommendation?
Motion.
Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, this next item it's an important action item for the continuance of the Transportation 2050 plan. And Public Transit Director Jesus Sapien is here with Deputy Transit Director Ken Kessler and Chief Financial Officer Denise Olson to talk to you about the financing that's needed to carry out. Really, a lot of this is the light rail projects that are upcoming, but there are other transit elements. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Jesus.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, thank you for having us here today. Ken Kessler is going to give an overview of the CIP needs over the next 10 years and how closely we're working with not only a financial consultant to help us manage the financial aspects of the long-term T2050 plan, but also how closely we work with the finance department for financing needs that may arise from time to time. Right now, with 3 light rail projects coming up, there is a need to finance, and so the report in your packet and today's PowerPoint will give an overview of that, recognizing that we also need to fund other aspects of the transit program, such as upcoming BRT and shade in the transit environment and so on. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ken.
Thanks, Jesus. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, I'm going to be discussing our capital program for public transit, as Jesus mentioned, over the next 10 years through the year 2030. I'll provide an overview of what's included in our capital program, highlight some of the major projects that really are integral to the financing need for our program. And then I'll discuss the program funding plan that we have in place. And then, of course, seeking your recommendation to the full City Council to approve the issuance of debt obligations. So I just want to talk first about sort of the goals and objectives of the capital program and really the public transit portion of the T2050 program in general. So maintaining, enhancing, and expanding public transit for the City of Phoenix is like a primary goals of the overall T2050 program as it relates to transit. And so as part of that, the capital program is integral in terms of supporting the overall program to build the infrastructure, to maintain our assets, to acquire and build new assets to provide the services that we promised in Proposition 104. So a important aspect of our capital program is really maintaining our transit assets and our system in a state of good repair. And this is not only an FTA requirement as it relates to federally funded assets, but also just a best practice in terms of providing and ensuring a safe and reliable transit system for our users and our residents. And all of these projects, including fleet replacement, capital upgrades to facilities as they age, they need upgrades and refurbishing, maintaining our various systems as well in a state of good repair. There's a lot of technology behind the transit system, and it's important for all those systems to work efficiently for our service to be reliable. I do want to mention all the projects, the capital maintenance projects and all of our new projects have been included in the T2050 plan from the very inception when we worked with the Citizens Committee on the Future of Phoenix Transportation. All this was built into there, as well as the overall funding and financing plan. So just want to talk about some of the expansions. As you know, Jesus mentioned the 3 projects we have underway right now for light rail, but between now and 2030, there's a total of 4 projects planned to be built and operational. In addition, we have our BRT program. Again, as Jesus alluded to, right now we're in the sort of the beginning planning and program development stages, and when we get to the point of implementing BRT corridors, of course, there's going to be a significant investment needed in infrastructure and fleet and so forth in order to launch that new service for our residents and passengers. And then new technology, as kind of an example, our recent installation of a new CAT AVL system. We're embarking upon the procurement of a new fare collection system and other technology enhancements that will be needed in the future through the year 2030 are all built into our capital program to make sure that our system is up to date and running as efficiently as possible. Also in our capital program, we have new passenger facilities such as additional bus stops and park and rides. This is to support some of the increased services we have in the T2050 plan, where we're looking to not only increase frequencies on those busy routes, but also extend and introduce new routes in the city where we currently don't have service. And certainly these types of amenities are important to that service expansion. And as well as we roll out those new services, there'll be a need for additional fleet. So our fleet size will grow over the course of time, and so this is a very important part of our capital program. And then, as you know, shading bus stops is a real priority for us and a big part of the T2050 program overall. And so we're working very aggressively to shade, ultimately here in the coming years, all the bus stops in Phoenix that are possible to actually have shade structures placed there. So that's a key component. And then with all the service enhancements and expansions on the bus side, we've planned for a new bus O&M facility. We're probably looking at the late 20s, maybe around 2030 to have a new facility constructed. We have 3 O&M facilities right now for bus. 2 of them are at capacity. The other facility, our west facility, continues to grow the fleet there, and so we'll be nearing capacity or hitting capacity there. Looking at our service expansion plan, when we developed the T2050 program, we identified that we would need this new O&M facility. So that's within this next 10 years. So that's a 10-year capital program going forward. And now I just want to kind of touch on the major projects and really the projects that are kind of really going to utilize and benefit the most from our financing. The high capacity transit system. So that's our light rail and our bus rapid transit. It's a critical component of the overall T2050 plan. You know, we had maps on the ballot and so forth for Prop 104. So these were clearly elements of the program promised to the voters and critical to our program that we're working hard to make sure we implement. And with that, of course, is an important infrastructure investment to whether it's, lay and build the light rail or put in infrastructure improvements needed for bus rapid transit throughout those corridors. It'll be a significant investment. And so our high-capacity transit build-out is really the primary projects or the primary part of the program that really will benefit from financing. And so just quickly, we have our 4 light rail extensions planned through 2030. We have the South Central Downtown Hub, the Northwest Phase 2, Capital I-10 West Phase 1, and the Capital I-10 West Phase 2 at this point planned to be completed by 2030. And then, of course, our BRT program. And then in the coming slides, I'll just kind of touch on the magnitude of the funding needed for these particular projects, just to give you a sense of where that need is and which projects will benefit from this financing. So the South Central Downtown Hub project, this project is a 5.5 mile extension of light rail connecting downtown to Baseline, as you're all aware. This will actually give us the opportunity to have a 2-line system. I think it's been mentioned in the past, probably by Marcus Coleman, where once this is constructed, we'll have a north-south line, and then we'll also have an east-west line that connects Mesa to the downtown hub area, and make it a nice 2-line system that's seamless in terms of operation.
Councilwoman?
I have a question, because at one point they were talking about moving the transit center to Baseline and Central. Is that still happening?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Pastor, no, the transit center is still planned to stay at Broadway and Central as it is today. There will be a park and ride at the Baseline station, but not a full transit center.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the Northwest. I just wanted to mention on the South Central project, of the debt obligations, we're looking to issue a little over $400 million is projected to be used for this project to keep this project on schedule and get it to its completion.
Ken, let me ask a question. We're talking about all this financing, and maybe it goes to Denise. Is it because we're fronting the money and then we'll get repaid for some of these projects?
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, the financing need is really driven by when we developed the plan with the Citizens Committee that put it together and brought it to council, was the desire to deliver the projects earlier and be able to provide those services earlier in the program. So instead of doing a pay-as-you-go program, using cash as it comes in, that's the way the financial plan was built, was with an assumed level of financing, and actually a higher level of financing that we're talking about today initially, in order to deliver these projects, because without financing, we wouldn't be able to deliver all 3 of these light rail projects that are going on now, as well as phase 2 of the Capital I-10 West project by 2030. But that was always an assumption in the financial modeling. It's much like buying a house. Most people don't wait years and years and years to save up $200,000 to buy a house. You take out a mortgage, so you can have the house now, and you pay it off over time. And all the debt service payments to fund this debt is built into the financial plan as well.
Can we afford this, Denise?
Yes, thank you, Councilwoman Williams. What's happening is basically what we're doing some variable rate debt up front. That's what the financing plan is taking in place. And so as they build it, we're seeing what they need to finance, and then we're going to finance it over a period of time. What that allows us to do is keep those debt service payments very level over a 20-year period, like Ken said, like a house mortgage. And so that way, when the revenue's coming in, we can pay off that debt versus trying to save a bunch of money up front and paying a huge amount to pay for the full project cost. So this way we can finance it over about 25-year period.
Thank you.
Okay, and for Northwest, as you know, that's about a 1.5 mile project that extends the end of the line over to Metro Center. A very important infrastructure investment for the city, and this project will utilize about $120 million or so in debt financing to construct that project. And now moving on to Capital I-10 West extension, right now in 2 phases. The first phase going out to the Capitol. That project is estimated to utilize about $100 million in the financing along with other fund sources to construct it. And then capital I-10 West Phase 2 is estimated to utilize about 500 to 600 million in debt financing along with the other funding sources to construct it for opening in 2030.
Councilwoman?
In particular, the capital. There's a debate of it going on Washington, Jefferson, and also had a dialogue about what that looks like on 19th and how it's going to look. In this picture, it doesn't simulate what's going on, really.
Yes, Councilwoman, thank you. There is still that dialogue happening, and actually community meetings are going to begin in January to talk more about the alignment with the capital I-10 Phase 1 extension.
Okay.
So we'll have more discussion on that.
Okay, and now lastly, bus rapid transit. As I mentioned, we're in the early planning phase of this program. Right now, the estimates are once we move towards implementation of BRT corridors, we'll be utilizing about $100 to $200 million in financing in order to support the BRT capital program. And now, having highlighted the major projects that will utilize the financing, I just want to sort of highlight the revenue sources that support the overall capital program. So our capital program through 2030 is about a $3.9 billion program, so it's a pretty significant capital investment for transit. And on the table on the screen, you can see those are the fund sources that are planned to support that program and the amounts by fund source. And again, just want to remind folks that, you know, in terms of the financing, this is not something where we just realized we needed to finance. We had planned this all along in order to deliver those projects and those new services as early as possible in the program, while recognizing and making sure that it was financially feasible in order to deliver it in such a manner. And so I want to just touch on some of the specifics of the financing plan, and if you have any questions here, I'm sure Denise will be able to provide those answers. I know just enough to intro the topic. So I do want to mention, we have been working, both the Finance and Public Transit Department, with PFM, a financial advisor firm. We've actually been engaged with PFM since about 2014. They actually updated our old T2000 financial model several years ago, and then they helped us build and actually built the structure of the financial model that we use to do the financial planning for the T2050 program. So they helped us all the way through the process of working with the Citizens Committee that developed the Prop 104 plan, all through the process of any adjustments that were made by the subcommittee and City Council before it was referred to the ballot. And they've been assisting us with updates to that model to make sure that we have the best model possible to estimate our financing needs and make sure our overall program is financially feasible. And so based on the financial modeling to show we have about $1.3 billion in debt obligations needed to fund our program through 2030. And beyond 2030, right now, the way the plan is constructed, there's no additional need for financing for the public transit program. So we're coming to you today for this one-time ask that will take care of our financing needs through 2030, and really that will be all that would be needed. In the original plan, there was some additional financing needed, but with some of the adjustments to the plan, this will be the only financing needed at this time unless there's other significant changes. And so the financing plan will consist of some short-term, as Denise was alluding to, like commercial paper, revolving line of credit, and then long-term obligations that would most likely be municipal bonds, with the idea that we would be financing through short-term to keep cash flow needs moving forward, and issuing bonds every 3 to 5 years to satisfy the short-term debt and then also provide cash for ongoing capital needs for our program. So with that, we're here to request the subcommittee's recommendation of approval to the City Council to issue debt obligations of up to $1.3 billion. And I'd be happy to entertain any more questions.
Comments?
I have a question, Denise. So once we go through this model, this is the way the model is going to be for the next 20, 25 years. I'm assuming, and of course we shouldn't assume. But there's a possibility of the rate starting to go up. I feel like once the rates start to go up, we won't be back at this conversation unless the rates go even lower than what we have gotten the interest, the rate for. Then this is the model, and we're going to stick to this model of financing.
Yes, thank you, Councilwoman Williams. So, I mean, Pastor, sorry.
That's okay.
Basically, as, it's been a long morning already. Anyway, so what happens is when we do these models, when we do the financing, we're very conservative on our interest rate assumptions. And so we really assume kind of an overall average rate that we think is going to be good for this period of time. We're pretty confident that that rate will be sufficient in the model that we're using. Remember, this is revenues coming in from the transit tax, and so we're always very conservative in those assumptions, so we're very comfortable that this financially is feasible.
And
even if the rates go up a little bit, rates are really, really low right now, so even if rates go up a little bit, we'll be able to finance it with the tax that's coming in from transit.
oh, okay, so so when I think of a mortgage, let me go back.
Okay.
When I think of a mortgage, I think of a fixed rate.
Yes.
So are we getting a fixed rate, or are we getting a what? Adjustable. I'm like, what is it? I was going to say
yeah, so what we're planning is we're looking at, for the $1.3 billion, just to put this in perspective, probably around 4 bond sales. Okay, so we're gonna do a line of credit, which is a variable rate up front until they're done spending with the project.
Okay.
And then when they see exactly what that amount's going to be, we'll fix it out into bonds, and then that will be a fixed rate. The last bond sale we're looking at is in the fiscal year probably 29-30. So we're pretty comfortable that we can forecast those interest rates through that period of time. At least be conservative enough to handle it financially in the plan.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
In the housing world, it looks like an arm.
And then we fix it out.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Mayor?
So just so I just had a couple of questions when it came to the buses and the transit, rapid transit. One of the things that we've been doing a lot of research on is that one of the things that I think we should be looking at as well, and I think we talked about this the other day, was trying to provide some protective shields for the drivers, right? How is it that we can implement those in? I'm talking to different people, like we've been hearing that there's been a lot of incidents with the bus drivers on the buses, and and they're the ones, they're responsible, right, getting people from one place to the other. So I just think that we need to take that into consideration as well as we're moving forward on how we implement those, just for the safety of the bus drivers, just because they have a lot of responsibility. They're carrying our constituents back and forth, and we just need to make sure that we ensure that we try to include that as we move forward.
So like a safety.
Like a safety shield, right?
Do you have any questions?
No.
Does anyone who move staff's recommendation? I mean, it's only 1.3 billion. Peanuts, right?
Go ahead, Thelda. You can move it.
No, but I support it, so it seems a little painful at the time, but I recognized you got a lot of big projects in there, so.
Yeah. I mean, I'll make the motion, but just with that we implement the shields, that we make sure that we look into that and that we make that happen.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Denise. And Ken.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, our next item is an update on the FREEWAY program, and Tom Remus, our FREEWAY program manager, is here to give an update on all that's happening with our South Mountain Freeway, and any discussion on some of the other projects that are underway.
Well, I asked him to do South Mountain and then move I-17 and anything connected to it in January, because I know we have a lot of in-depth questions about I-17, but we're there on South Mountain, aren't we?
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, yes, we are. So I'm excited to be here today. As Mario mentioned, I am the city's Freeway Coordination Manager. And each month we do provide for you a written report of all of the freeway projects occurring within the city of Phoenix. And this month, we do want to highlight the new facility that will be opening at the end of the month, known as South Mountain Freeway, but soon to have some new signage to call it the Congressman Ed Pastor Freeway. So for 36 years and 3 months of construction, we've been working on this facility. Just as a reminder, the facility starts at 59th Avenue and the I-10 Papago Freeway, traveling south and then east to the I-10 Maricopa Freeway. This project does date back to 1983, and that's where the regional planner started looking at this facility. Funding was finally allocated in 1985 and then again in 2004 through the regional transportation tax known as Prop 300 and then Prop 400. This was the largest freeway project, construction project within Arizona. All 22 miles is within the city of Phoenix. It was a public-private partnership, and that was one of the reasons that ADOT found that it was able to have construction occur at such a rapid rate and be done within 3 years. There was a $1.7 billion price tag on it, have a number of facets to it, 40 bridges, 15 interchanges, a 6-mile shared use path down in Ahwatukee, and a pedestrian bridge just north of Broadway Road. Some new interchanges were added sort of at the end of the project. So initially when this project was developed, there was concern from the Ahwatukee community that they weren't sure if a 32nd Street interchange would be appropriate, but they came back to ADOT and said that they would like one. That has been added in. That particular interchange will still take a number of months to be completed while the freeway is open. But then the Gila River Indian community also asked that ADOT add a new traffic interchange just south of Estrella, which is now called the Vequiva Way and will exit directly into the Gila River Indian community. One of the facets that I mentioned was the pedestrian bridge. This was an exciting part of this project. You could see here, just north of Broadway Road, a subdivision known as Rio del Rey was developed knowing the freeway was going to bisect it. The children of the community did have a safe route to school where they'd cross that big dirt path. But through this project, we were able to add in a pedestrian bridge. And so you could see now the bridge is going in. There were numerous meetings with the neighborhood, with the residents, and with the school districts to get their input on this particular project. Just last week, the final piece of the bridge structure, which is a steel truss bridge, was installed. You could see that here. The Office of Arts and Culture has worked with a contracted artist out of New York City to come up with a concept with feedback from the community. Some of the concerns expressed by the community were, is it going to be safe for children? Is it going to be visible? Is there going to be good airflow? But also, how does it enhance our community? As you can see on the left side of the screen, that's the artist rendering. And then you can see in the fabrication, as they're putting together the different pieces, there is going to be a series of holes that go through. There's going to be some colored panels added. So during the day, you're going to see all sorts of shifts in the coloring. I just also wanted to point out some of the new traffic interchanges that have put in place. Early on, the City of Phoenix had some strongly worded conversations with ADOT. The mayor and council were concerned that some of our traffic interchanges had the roadway going up and over the freeway instead of staying at ground level. We were able to convince ADOT that it worked in our best interest for redevelopment in the area if we kept the roadway at ground level. And so this is one of the examples of the success. You could see in the bottom right-hand corner, that's a new Sprouts store. So through some partnerships and working together with the businesses and with landowners, we were able to start making some progress and putting some new development in. Dobbins Road is another example of some of the work that the city has done with ADOT. We went to ADOT talking about how we really wanted the corners of these interchanges to be there for high tech, for other important uses in the community. So ADOT went back to the table and redesigned some of the drainage basins so that way 2.5 million square feet of developable land was now available at Dobbins. Estrella Road is one of the unique features of this system. It is a double roundabout, also known as a dog bone interchange. That was the way to fit this interchange in, and looking at the traffic conditions, it would work the best in that area. Looking west in Ahwatukee, looking from the I-10 Maricopa, you could start to see the work that's happening or has happened with the freeway, and Pecos Park is in the top right-hand or left-hand corner. Now, just to show you the change that's occurred in 3 years, I've pulled together a couple of slides. Back in January of 2017, this is what 17th Avenue and Pecos Road looked like. Today, you have a new diverging diamond half interchange at this intersection, and you could see that the freeway is in. At the Salt River, back in January 2017, the challenge was that you had this large expanse that needed to be crossed. Any of you who live and commute out in the Southwest Valley know that there's minimal crossings to get over the river when those times when it does flood. What you see here is we finally have a two-bridge structure going over the riverbed. Right at 59th Avenue and Interstate 10, the Papago Freeway, this is what it looked like back in January of 2017. Here's what it looks like now. So you have all the direct tie-in ramps, the direct HOV ramps. The community to the west was able to be preserved. The work that took place was off to the east. And those businesses that needed to be moved, our Economic Development Office worked to keep them within the city of Phoenix. So that being said, the Governor's Office and the Arizona Department of Transportation is planning a community celebration. More information to come. The Governor's Office is putting together material that will be released. We'll get it to your offices to push out to your constituents. But Saturday, December 21st, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., there is going to be a celebration. At that celebration, individuals will be able to park on the freeway and walk, run, play on the freeway as well. ADOT is coordinating a iceless ice skating rink, bouncy houses, food trucks, other vendors, and the city will have a number of our city departments there putting out information. If you or your council offices would like to participate and have a tent, we can make that available as well. It's a technology that's beyond my comprehension, but my understanding is it does not need to be cold, but you do have special skates that you would be able to skate on it as if it were ice. And so that will be free to the public. So with that, Madam Chair and subcommittee members, I'm available for any questions.
Well, I just wanted to say, I think it's quite an honor to name it after your dad, Laura.
Oh, I
That's
know.
very special.
I have to thank.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I have to thank Representative Espinosa, Diego Espinosa, who was the champion of it, and
I'm sorry.
yeah, he approached me during this month last year and just said, hey, we want to do this. We were going to do this, but now we're really going to push. And it took him a year. I just went, I think, a month ago to testify in front of the committee, which is really a small committee. And I was like, oh, is this how committees run in here at the state? And what I was very excited to hear was that all the tribes were in line in naming the freeway. In addition, many of the cities were in line. And so it was very exciting to hear at that moment. So it is exciting.
Your dad did for this state and this community, that's most deserved. So.
I agree with that. He was a workhorse, not a show horse, and he just worked, and it was always about the community and improving community lives and making sure that everyone had an opportunity. So it is well deserved.
Yes,
I will
it is.
say that.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll see you back here in January.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for the report and all the hard work you put in on this.
Madam Chair, the last item on the agenda today is an update on the 3rd Street Improvement Project, which was requested by Councilwoman Pastor at a recent meeting. And here to talk about it are Street Director Kenny Knudsen and Brianna Velez.
Thank you, Mario. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. we're happy to be here this morning to talk to you a little bit more about a very critical project that we're working on right now, a very important project to our department, the 3rd Street project, and it goes from Roosevelt all the way up to Indian School. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the history behind this project because it's something that council was involved with back in 2014. We had a downtown transportation plan that looked at how people get into and out of the downtown area. And one of the key projects that came out of that was the 3rd Street project. And actually, it's been on a number of our planning documents, the 3rd Street project, to kind of look at how we kind of recognize this unique roadway that comes into and out of downtown. It is primarily a bicycle and pedestrian oriented project to look at those modes, but I'll also tell you it has some improvements in this project as well that Brianna is going to highlight a little bit later that also help for vehicular traffic to go into and out of and using 3rd Street. We have had a lot of community involvement and support thus far through this project, which is good. There have been some delays in getting this project moving, and Brianna's going to go through those, but a lot of it come back to what we're doing a lot of on our pavement management program and our $200 million accelerated pavement. We want to make sure when we go in that nobody's going to come in and tear up the roadway afterwards. So we've been working around several utility projects that have put this project a little bit on hold, and so we'll go through that a little bit as far as our schedule going forward. So a little bit, something I know is near and dear to the subcommittee members is coordination and alignment. How does this project work with everything else that's going on downtown and around our city? Well, the first thing I wanted to highlight was our bicycle master plan, also adopted by council in 2014. This was the #1 project that came out of the bicycle master plan that was in there, the 3rd Street project. So we're obviously working on that and making sure this is coordinated with our bicycle master plan. We're also updating our bicycle master plan. It's been 5 years since we had done the last time, so this will be coordinated with that as well. Wanted to highlight something we're working on right now, nearing the end of our effort on this, is the Key Quarters Master Plan. And this Key Quarters Master Plan, to remind the subcommittee members, is really talking about how do we accommodate these multiple modes in our streets, and understanding that different streets have different purposes and functions, and how do we make sure that they're designed and operate correctly for the modes that we want to prioritize in those. And that's something we'll be coming and talking to the subcommittee later too about the results of that plan and that effort. Another one that's also involved in downtown is with dealing with light rail is the Reinvent Phoenix plan. And this is really looking at development that occurs on or adjacent to light rail. And so this 3rd Street being very close to the Central Avenue corridor and the light rail corridor, that is something that we're obviously taking into consideration when we're looking at this project. And then finally, the downtown transportation plan that we did in 2014, that is now being updated in 2019. And so we're making sure that this project, obviously what we're working on here, is coordinated with our efforts on updating that plan. This is a map that is popping up now that we've shared with the subcommittee previously, and it kind of shows how we're connecting our bicycle facilities in downtown and trying to make sure they connect both east, west, and north, south, but also to destinations along between downtown, even up to the Camelback East Core. You can see on here our Grand Canalscape project, our 20th Street project, and our Oak Street project that are all in various stages of design and working through that. Our 3rd Street project, which is nearing the end of design, and then our Coulter Street project, which is something we're going to be coming out to the community early in 2020 after the holidays to talk about that project and what we can do in that area. And kind of appreciation of 3rd Street as well. And the first thing I wanted to point out is the map here. The map shows kind of the light rail and bus alignment here on Central Avenue. It's the yellow one with the blue rectangles on there. And then you also have the other yellow line going north-south. That represents 7th Street, and that operates more with both buses and a commuter style service. So you've got Central that operates with buses and light rail, and 7th Street that has commuters and buses. And 3rd Street kind of sits in the middle there, and it has a unique purpose there. It doesn't operate the same way as Central Avenue. It's not Central Avenue, and it's not 7th Street. So this is the corridor along here, and we're really emphasizing connectivity with 3rd Street as well. So a couple things on here. One is our recreation facilities with Burton Bar Library, with Hans Park, Monterey Park, and Steel Indian School Park in there. But then we're also looking at our educational facilities, and including Burton Bar Library as being an education facility as well, with Arizona School for the Arts and St. Mary's Catholic High School there along this alignment.
Katie, I have, I'm not sure how we'll do ASA and St. Mary's when they're at peak. And they're at peak in the morning, and they're at peak in the afternoon, going down to the 2 lanes. I'm not sure, already with the 2 lanes, there's a gridlock that happens about 3 o'clock, 3:30. Trying to get into ASA and do pickup. And then there's gridlock with St. Mary's. It's a little different because you can go into a parking lot, but St. Mary's then gets gridlocked trying to come out. So out of the parking lot and it's just sitting there. I don't know how we're gonna, you're the experts on how you're gonna flow at those peak hours. And I don't know if you've been out there in the morning or afternoon. And then it's gridlocked at McDowell. ASA parents are trying to get in, other people are trying to get out, and it's just, there's no movement happening. So I know you're looking at all of this, but to me, it's the flow.
So Madam Chair, Councilwoman Pastor, that's a great point. And that's something we work through both in the design phase. So we've looked at traffic counts and accommodating those things. But I will tell you, part of it is going to be how we, if we're talking about going into construction, it's phasing, but also making sure after construction is done, it still works as it is. And Brianna's going to talk a little bit more when she talks a little more about the project, about we still have some more additional community involvement that is going to happen early next year before we start construction on this project.
Okay. And then the other area is Osborne. Because Earl is going to have a multifamily units there that I want to say is 200 or more. It's pretty big. And so Earl's now going to become one of those streets that never was before, a street that's going to move people in and out, which means there's going to be gridlock at Thomas again and at Osborne. So I'm just thinking these things through as I'm looking, as I know what projects are coming up. And so I just want to be conscientious of that and see how we move everybody.
We definitely appreciate that.
Thank you.
So in addition to the educational, we're also looking at, there's destinations along this corridor as well. And I wanted to get these pop up here. We have Heard Museum, Phoenix Art Museum, and also the VA Hospital, major destinations along this corridor or adjacent to this corridor that we may need to make sure we accommodate as part of the transportation grid we're looking at. And now, I've talked a little bit more about 3rd Street and how it kind of operates the corridor. I'm going to turn it over to Brianna to take over the rest of the presentation and walk you through the project itself and what it's going to incorporate.
Thank you, Keeney. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, we're going to talk about some of the project objectives associated with this project. And so 3rd Street is a collector street and our greatest opportunity to provide a safe, low-stress, low-volume bicycle pedestrian corridor. And so as we move forward with the bicycle master plan, we're really going to be looking at our collector street network system to expand on our bicycle and pedestrian corridors. Obviously, Keeney highlighted a lot of connectivity associated with this project, and so some of the connections associated with active bicycle and pedestrian projects are the Oak Street project, which is currently under design and will begin construction next fiscal year, in addition to our Grand Canal project, which is getting set to open in the beginning of 2020, as well as existing bike lanes that exist currently on Roosevelt Street. And so obviously improving traffic circulation is important. And so there is a segment between McDowell and Oak Street right now that currently has no two-way left turn lane. And so what that means, there's approximately 15 driveways and 4 local streets that intersect with 3rd Street there. And so the vehicles that are traveling in the center lanes have to stop when there's any left turn movement. And so we were taking a look at improving traffic circulation within that area. It was also critical that we provided a safe transportation network for all users of the roadway. So that included pedestrian, bicyclists, as well as vehicles. And we also wanted to integrate complete streets elements in terms of narrower travel lanes, continuous sidewalk, bike lanes, and safe crossings. So there has been strong community support for this project from the very beginning. We have held 3 open houses, 2 during the pre-design phase, as well as 1 during the design phase. Very highly attended open houses. We've had, staff has had various stakeholder meetings. Some of the stakeholder meetings included Midtown Neighborhood Association, Urban Phoenix Project, as well as several of the bicycling community members. And we are looking to have a final open house in early 2020. This is where we will show the community the final design plans, as well as talk about the construction schedule associated with this project. So what are the design elements associated with this project? Obviously, when we think about a pedestrian corridor, it was really important that we address the sidewalk gaps. And so here's a picture of an area on 3rd Street where there's missing sidewalk. And so we will have continuous sidewalk associated with this project when this is complete. We also evaluated all the existing ADA ramps, or all of the ramps and driveways along this corridor. And so these will all be brought up to current ADA standards associated with this project. There are currently 10 existing traffic signals, so we will be rebuilding those 10 existing traffic signals to current standards. And so that means including pedestrian push buttons, pan tilt zoom cameras, as well as full detection at all the intersections. We will be creating on-street parking areas with this project. There are 4 areas for a total of 31 new parking stalls. And we will, as highlighted in this picture, these will be parking protected bike lanes. So we will use these parking areas to provide protection for the bike lane.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
It's not on this street that the cycle track's gonna go on. It's on, I think I'm mixing my streets up now. 3rd or 5th?
3rd Avenue.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Staff also evaluated the current street lighting within this corridor, and so north of the I-10, all of the street lights meet our current standards. South of the I-10 to Roosevelt, we will be adding 8 new pedestrian street light combination lights, as well as 10 new PED lights only within this area. Obviously, shade is very important when we're talking about a pedestrian corridor, and so we've evaluated the entire area, and anywhere where we are able to add in trees for shade, shrubs and landscaping, we are adding it in. But we've also looked at adding 2 large shade structures. One of them is south of McDowell Road, the other is south of Earl Drive, and so those 2 shade structures will be added. In addition, we received some private development funding to add additional shade from Oak Street to Indian School, and so there will be 13 small shade structures within that corridor. So obviously this is a bicycle and pedestrian oriented project, and so there will be continuous buffered bike lanes throughout the entire project limits. A lot of the areas will also include protection. We will be providing protection for the bike lanes with a combination of flexible delineators, armadillo raised pavement markers, as well as utilizing the parking in those specific 4 areas. So another safety feature that we'll be adding with this project are dash lines through non-signalized intersections, as shown here, the green dash line areas. So this is important to highlight the possible conflict points for both drivers and cyclists. There are currently 4 existing crosswalks within the project limits, and so all of those will be converted to high visibility crosswalks with additional striping and signage. And we will also be adding in 5 new high visibility crosswalks. One of those crosswalks will be at Vernon Avenue, which will include a rapid flashing beacon with yellow flashing lights. And so that one, obviously that Vernon alignment is very important because it's in conjunction with the light rail station on Central, and also provides a lot of traffic in terms of St. Mary's High School.
Yeah. That's one of their issues.
And so as we take a look at the tentative project schedule, this design completion is going to wrap up in spring of 2020. So we will hold that public hearing, the public meeting prior to wrapping up the design completion. Obviously, it's very important that we, before we go through, because there is an overlay associated with this project, and so before we go through and do that, we want to make sure that we are coordinating with our partners in the right-of-way. And so construction is slated to start fall 2020. Water Services Department has a project that they will be beginning in spring of 2020, a water line project that is scheduled to be complete somewhere around August or September. So we are prepared to come in and go in shortly after as soon as they complete that project. And then our construction completion date is spring of 2020. We're hoping for sooner, but this is probably a very large project for us. Is about 4 miles of work that needs to be completed. And so while we anticipate spring 2022, we hope to be able to deliver that sooner. And with that, we'll take any questions.
Councilwoman?
I actually have a question on the lane configurations. Is there any way that you could do a study showing the speeds now versus what might happen after the lanes are configured? Or have you already done that in other parts of the city?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Stark, I'm not aware if we have any studies on that we have existing, but I think that's a great idea because we do move more and more with the Accelerated Pavement Maintenance Program. We're narrowing a lot of these travel lanes, so the opportunity to be able to have some real data to show moving from a 12-foot lane to an 11-foot lane or a 10-foot lane, what does that do to the speed and the comfort level for vehicles out there, and to see how it affects driver behavior.
Yeah, I would be curious only because speeding continues to be a problem in our city, and I think there probably have been studies that show a narrow lane slows the traffic down, but it would be nice to do a study here in the city of Phoenix. I know as we try to build up our motors, we've got to find ways to lessen the speeds throughout the city.
Any other questions? Very good. Thank you very much. Future agenda? Wait, no public? No public. Future agenda items?
I have one, and I don't know if this, we could start the I don't know. I want to look at street racing. Street
I can
racing.
tell you where to go to watch it almost every
Oh, I
night.
could tell you too. I think, well, not Central, and now Thomas, and now Levine. I saw a whole thing on Levine, and then all of our west sides are street racing. So I want to start looking at that.
Yeah. I like that.
I do too.
To me, it's a safety issue. We can start in transportation.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, hearing none. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.